Fred Free Radio, this is Chiara Nicoletti from the 18th Rome Film Fest and with Trudie Styler, director of Posso Entrare and ODE to Naples. I have to say that I found the whole approach of the film very poetic because I love the idea that a city like Napoli, in order to be discovered at their core, has to let you in somehow. So,
would you mind repeating that?
Yes.
Because there's lots of noise outside.
I said I found the whole idea of the film, of the approach of the film, very poetic. The idea of that in order to discover really a city like Naples, Napoli has to let you in somehow.
That Napoli had
yes.
had to let me in.
Yes.
Yes. Well, they did. The city let me in. The people let me in. I didn't have a script. I didn't have a clue when I began working on the documentary what on earth I had got to say. I knew that I should, because of its richness in history, to include its history, which I did through the auspices of Clementino, who I asked to write a rap, which is the history of Naples, the 3,000 years, please, in 3 minutes, which he did magnificently. But I then decided, because I have, in my life, I've done a lot of activism through human rights and got to visit people in, terrible areas of the world where they've undergone, their lives changed with earthquakes and floods. But what I found is that when speaking to local people, to ask them their permission to, can I come in and talk to you, that they are really very generous, the Neapolitans, most generous with, it's always certo. It's always, when I say Posso Entrare, which is the title, it was always, ma certo, come in, sit down, have a coffee, will you stay and have some lunch? They let you enter, and in no time at all, you get to hear their personal stories. They can be uplifting stories, they can be stories of their difficulties and their trials and tribulations, but they allow you in, and in doing that, you build a story, but they send you to somewhere else, so that I built up this network of people who could actually sort of like direct me to where to go in the city to build up my story into the documentary that you see.
Do you feel that you know Napoli now, and how would you describe the Napoli?
I think it would take a lifetime to really know Napoli. And I intend to make it more of my life to get to know much more of Napoli. But there are many aspects, of course, that we see in the film that I just touch on the places, through the incredible Don Antonio, who is really the person who sort of guides us through the city with the great works that he's doing in Sanità, with his the Sanità Ensemble, with all the works that he's doing with the kids to keep them off the streets and out of trouble, with like using his churches as spaces, really turning them into theaters. And this is not heretical in his point of view. It's using the space for children to be able, and young people to be able to build their lives in a very positive way. And this was very inspiring to me.
One last thing, how did you choose the people that could talk about Napoli, that could represent a part of Napoli?
Well, some of them were sent my way by like me interviewing them first of all and saying, yes, this would be a person I'd like to talk to. But then I sort of went rogue and tapped on shutters in the Bassi, and I would see the shutters open and lives going on in the inside, and I would say, "Posso entrare, signora?" And the lady Sylvia, she was saying, "Oh, we'll become VIPs," and I said, "Yes, maybe." And she'd say, come and watch us do the cleaning. This is about as good as it gets." And just even filming her and her friend Anna and listening to the conversation was right out of a Fellini movie, really. They were just wonderfully natural in front of the camera, so joyful and fun, and being delighted to be on camera, and so generous, and like Michelle, the gloves maker, and those local people really are deeply in my heart, as Immaculatina and Gennaro, the chestnut sellers. And then you contrast that with, Roberto Saviano, who gave me a perspective of, what his life is like now, 16 years with the target on him. And we have Alessandra Clemente, whose mother was killed by the Camorra, but it turned her into an activist who thinks very positively now that, the kids who are getting into trouble with firearms are now getting their hands dirty in making the pizzas and the flour, and just immersing themselves into things that are much more positive and getting jobs. And she's a champion of her city. So, and through the artists, I could go on with, what Jorit brings, what Lelo Esposito brings, this sort of feeling of the people of Naples who stay. They don't go away. Francesco Di Leva with Nest, he says, let the bad guys go, but we don't go. We're going to stay, and we're going to rebuild our city. And for me, that's really one of the messages of Posso Entrare, that it has like a collection of champions who are just not going to leave, and the city will rise up, and has risen up.
Grazie, Trudie. Thank you so much. And we've been talking to Trudie Styler, director of An Ode to Naples, Posso Entrare, screening at the 18th Rome Film Fest, and this is Chiara Nicoletti for Fred, the Festival Insider.